Okay. We are gonna do Peachtober. Baby, you gotta do the beat because I'm not good at beats. We are gonna do Peachtober. We are gonna do Peachtober. Thank you to SquareSpace for sponsoring this video. If you want to design and build a beautiful website, you can do it all in one place with SquareSpace. Hello everyone, welcome back. If you haven't seen me since last Peachtober, it's been one whole year. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. I know why I'm spinning like a villain. I thought I would do something a little bit different this year. Since this is my 5th Peachtober, I could probably say I'm almost an expert at Peachtober. I've spent many hundreds of hours on Peachtober. How many paintings is it? 31 times 5. It's like over 150 paintings for this challenge that I created inspired by the Inktober challenge. One day I woke up and I thought, Inktober's not for me. Like, the ideas are too abstract. I just want to have fun and paint something cute. I don't want to paint 5 paintings and then get in and feel sad. I want a prompt list that is a thing so that even if I can't think of anything, it's easy. At this point, I didn't think about like people joining in. I was just like, the night before Peachtober, probably in 2018, I was like, how about if I make my own prompt list? And I shared it online being like, do you guys want to do this? Like, does anyone want to do this? And I thought maybe like 5 people would join. It would just be this cute little thing that I set out to do that month. But like hundreds of people joined. And then the next year, double that. And the next year, double that. And last year we had 75,000 entries. I know that I've said that before, but I'm just so proud. Like, it seems so insane. Enough tooting at my horn. But my point is, I've been doing this a while, and so I have tips to share. I thought that I could do a little Peachtober cheat sheet, which is basically like hot tips and tricks to completing the prompt list and how I prepare for Peachtober, but also like hints to what you may be able to do for each prompt if you need them. I'm going to chapter this video so that you can skip ahead, so you don't have to have cheats for everything. And during Peachtober, if you get stuck, you can come back and look at this. I'm not going to be like, draw this and draw that. I'm going to say, here's what direction you could go down for this prompt. There are 3 different ways that you can interpret this prompt. I'm merely defining the prompt for you because when I created the prompt list and I was checking the words to make sure that they were going to be inspiring enough for me, looked up all the definitions, all the possible things that it could be, and I did sketches. You're not going to see those today because some of those are my secret plans, but I will be exploring those definitions for you today as well. So we're going to start with the tips and tricks, and then we're going to move on to the cheat sheet. Okay, tips and tricks. I haven't actually thought about this yet. I'm just going to tell you how I approach Peachtober because I've completed it 5 years in a row. I might have some knowledge to share. So I start before October always. Peachtober is not about you don't have to create it in October. I would actually prefer it if you created some of them ahead of time so that you don't have to work every day in October, because I think that's insane, even though that's probably what is my reality will be, but that doesn't have to be your reality because you will be smarter than me. I begin by looking at all the prompts and kind of creating a brainstorm for each prompt. I'll start with writing down words or directions that I can go, and or doing some really, really rough ideation sketches. I will usually spend a few days going through all of the prompts and kind of brainstorming and allowing myself not to get bogged down by perfecting it, kind of just like brain farting for each prompt and having an idea for everything. This is going to act as like your roadmap for the entire month so that when you get to each day, if you're not painting ahead of time, you will have an idea of what you can paint, which I think is super, super helpful because half of the hard part is coming up with the idea. Then if you can, before the month, do like several refined sketches and hopefully I would try and be 3 ahead before you start Peachtober, but you know what? The more the better. This prompt list is not about like, can we survive 1 month of painting? It's more like, let's just post on the days and find artists that we love, share our work, and like be able to like be a big community, because that's really what it's about for me. That's the reason I continue to do it, because the work is hard and the challenge is really hard, but the community is the best. Maybe like plan out which prompts you're willing to do a simpler piece for. You can do what you like, but I would really recommend not doing a complex painting for every single one. Last year, I think I really took on too much. I like, oh, another tip, do not try a new medium. Oh, you can if you, honestly, I regret trying a new medium last year because I was also managing the Peachtober Instagram, my Instagram, doing a reels, posting twice a day on TikTok, on Instagram, and preparing my video for the end of the month as well. So like I had and also like some client work that got pushed into months. So it was a really bad idea for me to do a new medium. This year, I think it would have been okay because I understand the workload. If you have like another job, it might be difficult. To contradict myself, Peachtober is a great time to learn a new medium because you're forced to not be precious. You're forced to run with your mistakes, which often leads to like problem solving, which you may not usually chase if you've got all the time in the world. With Peachtober, you've got a day to work out your problem, and sometimes that means you can't start again. You just have to roll with it. That has actually helped me to figure out my medium better. It's actually helped me to explore like ideas that I may not have explored. It actually helped me to like roll with the punches a little bit, which boosts your confidence in a medium, which is most of the reason we're not good at painting with things, because we're not confident. Part of the reason I continue to do Peachtober is because every year I discover like artists that I love on the hashtag, and I know that's kind of like a crazy way for me to be like, I would like to be inspired throughout the year. How will I find people to be inspired by? I will create a prompt list where thousands of people are involved so I can mine for inspiration and people that make me happy for my Instagram feed. That's what it sounds like, but it's not really like that. I get to do this thing and there's so many talented people involved. My tip is to find new artists because it's super inspiring. To do that, you can either go through the hashtag, which if you're not keeping up each day can be a bit overwhelming because there are like hundreds of posts a day at least, or you can follow the Peachtober Instagram where I pick my favorites, because I'm going through all those posts every night because I can't help it. I want to make sure that people feel seen, and I want to make sure that I'm featuring the ones that I'm impressed by. Oh, okay, I have another tip. This one is something that I wanted to address because I feel like everything was great. I love the enthusiasm, I love the work, I love the ideas. What I think for some people could have been improved is maybe the presentation of traditional pieces and digital pieces. If you're sharing digital pieces, I would not just share the final image. I would also share the different layers that led up to that point. What's your initial sketch, even if it's digital? Next slide. What's your refined sketch? Next slide. What's your artwork? Next slide. What's your final details? I think building the process, even if you're doing digital, or even like you can use your time lapse as well, is really, really important in gaining people's interest, because there's a lot of digital work that we see on digital platforms. Now, when it comes to traditional work, it can be really difficult to showcase it in a really nice way and in the way that will be the most effective to like getting your work seen, and also like me seeing your work. Okay, I'm just gonna say my personal preference. I would take photos of it in natural light or bright light, consistent lighting. Consider your background. Maybe don't just lie it on, this isn't something that happened, but I'm just trying to think. Like maybe don't just lie it on any old surface. Maybe pick a spot that you're going to photograph it every time. Pick a consistent spot. Show the things that you're using to make it. I've spoken about this before, but like flat lays and like photos of the work in the workspace are a really good way to give people context to your work. Like what size is it? How big is it next to a pencil? What did you use to make it? Did you use gouache? Did you use ink? You can answer all of these questions, and it also makes people realize how much work went into the piece, because I think it's really easy to forget that when you're scrolling through social media. With traditional, consider documenting your work. Yes, there's the flat lay. Yes, it answers a lot of questions, but what happened when you were making something? Consider pausing after you do the sketch, take a photo. Consider pausing after you do the first layer, take a photo. Consider pausing after you do most of it, take a photo. Consider taking some close-ups after you've done the final details, things like that. Consider taking a selfie if you're looking disheveled or feeling really good or whatever. Like, this is a chance for you to show people what you're about, what your process is, and who you are. Like, don't waste this opportunity. This is a great opportunity, even if you don't complete the 31 days. Regarding like the way that you present your work, brighter photos and stuff do a lot better because they pop forward as opposed to falling back. Consider how it's going to look. You don't have to do this. This is just an afterwards thing. You don't really want it to affect your work, but most people are going to be scrolling on the hashtag and clicking on the picture that they're interested in. So if it looks good as a thumbnail, small, is likely to get clicked on, I'm no expert here, but please consider the algorithm change in terms of reels. Do you want to film your painting? You know what I mean? Along the way, or do you want to film it, just the finished version? It might be a good way to get people to look at your work. You know what I mean? I'm very happy with the amount of eyeballs on my work, but if you were looking to grow, those are some tips that I would give to you. Engage with the people engaging with your work. There are going to be like hundreds and possibly thousands of people going through the Peachtober 22 hashtag looking for work that they want to see. So preparing it is one thing, but another thing is like responding to people. If they're encouraging you, telling you how much they love your work, let them know how that feels. Like, you may form connections, you may form friendships. I've formed a lot of real life friendships that way. I formed a lot of online friendships and a lot of like people that I really appreciate being in my little online community that way. So I would really, really recommend that. So the next part of this video is going to be a little cheat sheet so that you guys can have a little help during Peachtober if you need it. You don't have to watch this. You don't have to watch it now. You can come back and watch it when you're stuck with a specific prompt, because I'm going to do chapters. But I'm also going to like condense this whole video down into a blog post so that you can refer to it more easily, not have to scrub through. So I think it's a good time before we jump into the cheat sheet to say a big thank you to SquareSpace, who is the sponsor for this video, but also the website building platform of choice in this studio and in this household. You guys know this, SquareSpace is the best. It's easy. It's gorgeous on the back end and on the front end. That is very rare. The templates that they create are designed for a specific need in mind, but a lot of them are broad enough so that you can apply them to yourself, even if they're not specifically made for like an artist or a photographer or a wedding planner or whatever. For example, my theme, which is supply, I think it was initially intended to be a store platform. What I like about it is that the gallery page and the store page look very similar. I like that consistency. But I will be using the incredible and easy to use tools to create the blog post that you guys see, and also the store that I will eventually be selling my Peachtober originals on and Peachtober merch on. If you guys haven't tried SquareSpace, go to squarespace.com/furrylittlepeach. You get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. Now, cheat sheet. Let me get my little sketchbook out. I'll have to do a sift through because I changed the order after I selected the word. So let's see. The first word we have is cave. That is a bit of an obvious one. I love a noun. I love words that encourage stories or characters, and that's what I was focusing on with this prompt list this year. The way that I started thinking about this was I started to think of, what is a cave? Is a cave like what we typically think, which is like a giant mountain or rock with like a hole that can be like explored or lived in, inhabited? Does a cave depend on scale? Cave is pretty straightforward, but I would consider like what is happening with this cave. Is someone in this cave? Are you painting the inside or the outside of the cave? Are you painting a dark painting, or are you painting someone with like a source of light? Is there many characters in this cave? Is there no one in this cave? Is it a landscape? Is it a portrait piece? Is it figurative? Is it abstract? Cave is like a more easy prompt that I don't feel like I need to discuss a lot. Those are some thought starters for you without giving you like specific ideas. If the idea is, how can you make something that is maybe mundane, just like an empty space, into something more interesting? That's my clue for you for that prompt. So day 2 is dandelion. I basically love a flower prompt. I decided last year or the year before that I do like drawing flowers. I think before that I was a bit in denial. So this one, I guess you just decide how much of a focus you want the dandelion to be. Do you want it to be the main part of the image? Is it a portrait of a dandelion? Is it a giant, huge dandelion? Are you playing with scale? Are you making it more fantasy? Or is it something that's just in the bottom of the frame? Is it something that's a motif on a dress or on a cupboard or on like, you know, like it's more of an illustration with an illustration? Like that's stuff that you can think about. This one is a straightforward one, but I think there are a lot of routes you can go with it. And that's like, I guess, the beauty of Peachtober. Next we have cowboy. This one, you don't need to do a boy or a girl or any gender. It's more just like that, like kind of kitschy, like Western motif, like country western or something. That's the vibe I wanted. You can do as much or as little as you want. You could go with a portrait of a cowboy. You could go like a small person in the distance on a rant. You can decide whether you want it to be one aspect, like a hat or a boot, or if you want it to be the entire cowboy and their entire like country range, if that makes sense. Do you want to do some lasso typography? Do you want to do cow print? Do you want to make a contemporary cowboy? Do you want to draw a cowboy in action, like riding a horse? Do you want to make something a cowboy would use if you're doing textile or if you're doing ceramics? I feel like there's a lot of options. I'm going to say that for everyone because I actually do feel like there are. Next is tiger. Yay! This year in the Chinese zodiac, it is the year of the tiger, so I wanted to include this prompt also because my top favorite painting for this year was of a tiger, and so I want to try and like revisit that tiger and see it in a different situation, or maybe like close up or something more detailed, or change it a little, but I want to explore that again because it is my favorite painting almost that I've ever done. Like I think it's one of my favorite paintings of all time that I've done. I just have a big connection to it, especially for the work that I want to create now. It perfectly encompasses like the work that I want to be creating now. Oh, but for you guys oh my god, dang, I've just been talking about myself. So for you guys, you could do the animal. You could do something more abstract, like a tiger mom or something. Again, a tiger motif on fabric or on furniture or on a rug, you know, on tapestry. It doesn't need to be like a physical tiger in the jungle. It could be tiger print on a character. It could be a character with a tiger. There are lots and lots of options for you. It's always fun to draw animals. I always try to include the animals that I do like at that time because it is fun. Next is bow or bow. So this is the first one of the prompt list that has like, I think it's called a homophone or a homonym. There is a difference, but I don't remember which one it is. Okay, so bow or bow, it depends how you read it, and you can interpret it both ways. You can decide after you found your favorite idea that that's the way you want to go. Bow is in a ribbon. You could be doing a gift. Could you be doing a knot? Could you be doing a shoelace? There's also bow as in the verb, so to bow. There's also bow as in the front of a boat, which I thought was interesting, bringing something nautical in. And that just means that you have to include a boat. It could be a shipwreck. It could be a sailing boat. It could be a ship. It could be a cruise liner. It could be a toy boat. And there's also bow and arrow. And there's also bowing, like bending. There's a lot of things that it could be. This one is one that could really, like, it isn't at first obviously, I feel like, inspiring, but when you actually think about it, I think there's a lot of directions that you can take. All right, next we have trees. Obviously, with the beginning of my obsession with trees this year and painting my little bauble trees, I had to include it so I can paint a forest here or there. There's a lot of also like natural-based prompts. I think this one is more world-building than any other prompt list that I created in the past years. That's just because of my interests and because of like I think the artwork that I want to foster from you guys, which is a bit selfish, but I just want it to be my taste, you know? So trees, I feel like you could do a study of a tree, you could do a forest, you could do a single tree, you could do a leaf, you could do a branch, you could do some sticks, you could do what comes from a tree. There's apples. This one is like a noun, so it's one of the more obvious ones, but there are trees everywhere and there's lots of different examples of them and also lots of different aspects of them. Do you draw someone living in a tree? Do you draw an animal living in a tree? Do you draw a tree growing on something? Do you play with scale? Do you make very tiny trees? Do you make very large trees? It's up to you. I feel like this video is just like, it's up to you. It's not very helpful, but I thought it would be. 7 is potion. But when in doubt, look up the dictionary definition, by the way. I'm not going to say them all today, but like when in doubt, do that. A liquid with healing, magic, or poisonous properties. So that, honestly, that leaves it open. Water is a potion in that, by that definition. Obviously a typical magic potion or a wizard or a witch or whatever, you could go in that direction. The easiest way to like figure out these prompts when you're stuck is to look up a dictionary definition. Think about what context it could be in and look those two words up together. I think that's a way that you can be helped if you're stuck. Next is mask. This one I basically just wanted an excuse to do bandit fan art, like as in for myself. I don't expect anyone else to do it. But of course there are many different types of masks. Obviously the noun we'll start with because it's the most obvious. I think it's a really good opportunity to create a character, play with like a costume or something on your character, especially because it's October, you know, like it's Halloween vibes. A safety mask. We've got a healthcare worker's mask if you want to do something dedicated to like healthcare workers. We've got bandits masks. We've got a skincare mask. There's lots of like physical masks that you can create, and I trust that you'll come up with something very clever. But there's also like the verb mask, which is like to mask something, to hide something, to mask your emotions, to hide, to shield, hide from other people. Okay, next we've got boulder. Let me see. These are so mixed up. Boulder, obvious, right? Big rock. Let me look it up for you and read it to you. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about this. There is a place in Colorado called Boulder. It's very pretty. I would like to go there. I've never been there, but I actually had a cousin that lived there. A large rock, typically one that has been worn smooth by erosion. So this could be part of a landscape. It could be a character that is a boulder. It could be your character interacting with a boulder. It could be as active as the boulder that chases, what's his name, sweetie? Indiana Jones. Yeah. Just playing articulate with myself. What I'm trying to say is it could be something as like active that's in the foreground interacting with the character. It could be the character, or it could be something super minor far off in the background. It's up to you. It just has to be inspired by or include a boulder. Number 10 is lantern. So this, I feel like, once again, is amazing. The definition for lantern I've written down is case for enclosing light. What could that be? Could it be a firefly in a jar? Could it be a fire or a flame? The typical like oil lantern, or the typical a modern day torch? Could it be a lighthouse, which is technically a huge lantern? Could it be something that belongs to a character? Think about what the definition is, and think about like how you can push it and how it can be more whimsical, because that's when I think it becomes really interesting. Most people will probably go with a character with a lantern, which I can't wait to see. So don't be afraid to also do the obvious stuff too. 11 is field. This is very world building. This is part of the very world building prompts which I'm excited by. Okay, so the definition is open land with crops typically bound with hedges or fences. I think that leaves nice space for creating like an environment for a character. You could also be designing a map. I think it's a really good opportunity to do something that's further away or bird's eye personally, but you can do anything that you're inspired by. You could be someone working, you could be creating someone working in the field. You could be like a field of expertise. Is there a scientist in their lab? I obviously know nothing about scientists. Is there an artist in their studio? I mean, are you just drawing something in a field notes sketchbook? I don't know. This one is one of the more abstract or one of the ones that I feel like people may struggle with more, but I still think there's a lot of options. This is me every time. It's going to sound so bad when I'm editing this, but I'm like, options. We've got options. Number 12 is lava. That is obvious, I think. You know how I love volcanoes. I have some ideas for that. I'm sure you do. Hot, molten, or semi-fluid rock erupted from a volcano or fissure or solid rock resulting in cooling off of this. Okay, so this one was a more selfish problem because I just wanted to paint a volcano, but I enjoy painting a volcano with me. Next we have tail. This one is open because there are lots of animals with tails, aren't there? You can create your own type of animal. You can create something else. I obviously like to think of animals that have very interesting tails, whether it be like a raccoon, like Bo from my book, or a fox, or something very distinct. You know what I mean? Isn't there like, let me look up the definition, but isn't it like tail it is like escape? You can like push the prompts as far as you want to. It has to begin with the prompt, but it can end somewhere completely different. As long as you can explain why, I think it's acceptable. The hindmost part of an animal, especially when prolonged beyond the rest of the body, such as a flexible extension of the backbone in a vertebrae. The verb of tail is to follow and observe someone closely, especially in secret. That is interesting. You can create a very interesting character with that, I think. Her calligraphy was topped by banners of black ink and tailed like the haunches of a fabulous beast. Enjoy. Town. Okay, another world building one. Yay. You could be doing a map. You could be creating your own town. I think this one will be fun. You could create a town from really, really far away, or something, someone in a town, a character in town. You could do a landscape. You could do something inspired by the town that you live in or that you grew up in. I think that would be a really interesting way to like put a personal touch on your Peachtober entry. But town, I think, really speaks for itself. Do we dare look it up? A built-up area with a name, defined boundaries, and local government. Guys, time to draw those local governments. A central part of a neighborhood with its business or shopping area. Densely populated areas, especially as contrasted with the country or suburbs. Honestly, there are phrases that, like, go to town is a phrase that has the prompt in it. You could have someone going to town on that. Again, you can push the prompts. Like, I'm so open with what you do with these. I'm just here to facilitate the hashtag and the initial prompts. I just want you to create something that you love and have fun with. Next, we have shell. Let's see what I said. I'm sure it's just the literal prompt. Yep, I just drew a bunch of animals with shells on them. So basically, it could be a discarded shell. There's nothing in it. You could do a hermit crab or a snail. I think I wanted to do a snail, but I already did it last year, so that's scrapped off my list. You could do a turtle, anything with a shell. You could do an invertebrate, insect, because their shells are on the outside. You could do a peanut shell. You could do a bomb shell. Like maybe a babe, but also maybe like a bomb. I don't know. Maybe I personally won't be going down that route, but feel free if you want to. To shell something is to de-shell it. To take out of a natural enclosing or cover. I think those are the kinds of definitions that I find most interesting, because it's like when you actually post them, people are like, what does that mean? And you're like, this is what I mean. They're like, oh, that's smart. That's my hot tip, my secrets. Trunk I'm excited about. So trunk, I also did boot, so it's a bit funny. But trunk could be like the boot of a car, the trunk of a car, like the back bit that you put stuff in depending on where you're from. The trunk of an elephant. It could be a chest of some kind. Oh, it could be a tree trunk, but we're already doing trees, but you can still do trees. It's fine. And it doesn't have to be just the thing. It can be the thing in a situation, the thing in the background. It could be a thing in the forefront, whatever you want. Snow. This is just an opportunity for us to draw snowmen, people. I don't know what to tell you. Snowballs. You could do a snowy village. You could do snow falling down. It doesn't have to be the main thing. It can just be part of a landscape. Basically, let's draw some snowy landscapes. It's not Christmas, but it's almost Christmas. But also Christmas here is summer, so I don't know why I'm even talking about that. Are we running out of time?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. I have a runny nose. What was I up to? Wing. This is another thing like tail. You can just draw an animal that has a wing. You can draw something that doesn't have wings and give it wings. You can do a wing of a building. The West Wing. You can do to wing it. is like take a chance. I feel like those are the kind of prompts that are really hard when you're doing stuff like that. You can find a way to do it. Winged eyeliner. Okay, next we have boot. This is like very similar to trunk, am I right? It's like the boot of a car, the shoe boot. I feel like I just like drawing characters with boots, so I thought I could draw another character with boots, and you can too. Boot / kick someone out. To kick. Spaceship. Okay, spaceship I'm excited by because it's a little bit like futuristic. It's a little bit, it's not spooky. I don't know if I would call it spooky, but it's eerie. I'm excited to like do something like that in my style because it's like, I think it's like very different. It's not what you think of. You could do aliens, you could do an astronaut, you could do an interior of the spaceship, or you could just draw the spaceship in space. You could draw a landscape with a little spaceship in the sky. It doesn't have to be like a big part of it, as I've said many times, but I think this is one that will challenge us because if we're doing the inside of the spaceship, there's going to be so many buttons. A spacecraft, especially one controlled by a crew. You could draw the crew, you could do the photos of the crew, you could do an employee of the month board. Do you know what I mean? There's like, it doesn't have to be the spaceship. It can be though. Bun. Okay. The reason I'm making this video was because someone was like stressed and they were asking me like, do you mean bun as in like a bread bun, or do you mean like a hair bun? I was like, that's the point. Like, it can be anything. You can draw bread, but you can also draw a bakery, but you can also draw someone making dough, making a bun. It doesn't even have to be in the image. A bunny, if you want. You can do a hair bun. Like, there's so many things you can do. You can do a hot dog if you want.
You could do a pregnant person.
Bun in the oven. That's a really good idea. I didn't think of that. Noted. Write that down. Claim it as my own. Next we have globe. I was just thinking of like a one of those worlds that you can spin around because I just want to draw a planet and I wanted to find a way to be able to draw a planet. But let's see what it says in the definition, shall we? The Earth. Honestly, you could do anything on Earth. Anything you want. Anything that exists on the globe, you can do it. A spherical or rounded object. That leaves it very open. You could do a head. You could do a ball. Okay, next is sprout. This is obvious. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're screwed. No, just kidding.
We're out of time.
We're out of time. I have no patience. Sprout could be like the physical sprout, a Brussels sprout, a bean sprout. I curse you, bean sprouts. I hate you. There's just a personal vendetta against bean sprouts forever. Not for me. Starting to grow, to spring up. Appear or develop suddenly in large numbers. Daisies sprouting up everywhere. Think about it as like the physical sprout or the action to sprout. Castle. Castle is, I just want to draw a castle, okay? Let's see if there's any other definitions for that. But I think we can all find we can do lots of studies of castles and do something interesting. We can do the interior of a castle, of course, but of course we want to do the exterior. Me just like influencing people to make a special move, no more than once in a game by each player, in which the king is transferred from its original square to squares. Okay, you can do chess if you want. I'm going to be doing a castle. Think about who lives in the castle. Are you in a specific part of the castle? It doesn't have to be obviously a castle. It could be a castle in the painting in the background. Again, a motif on textiles or in furniture or in tapestries. I'm actually giving myself ideas here. 25 is robot. I'm personally thinking what robots I can create that live within the universe of my work, but what you can do, the whole video is just me reading Google definitions, and I feel like some people don't do this. I think it might be helpful. A machine resembling a human being and able to replicate certain human movements and functions. A machine capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically, especially one programmable by a computer. The more you know. I think the hardest part will be thinking about what your robot does. Like, what function does it perform? And what does it look like because of that function? 26 and 27 are our pair prompts. That is land and sea, respectively. This is very open. You could be doing something that is related. I usually do that for my prompts where it's like two images that are related. That's what I've been doing for the last few years. Or you can do two completely different images. I just like to have the pair prompts in there because I've been doing that from the beginning. 28 is plant. It could be the act of planting something. It could be the physical plant. We have a few plant prompts. So if there's a story that you can get going from there or doing something completely different, feel free. How many minutes do we have, baby?
Less than one.
It could be planting a kiss on someone's face. You could be planting evidence. There's so much you can do. We've got 3 more. 29 is whale. That is obvious, guys. You could be... I don't know if whale on me is something.
Less than 1 minute.
I got this.
With an outro.
30 is pet. Pet is merely a companion animal, I'm sure. Or you could pet someone. Or it's a pet name. Do you have fond feelings for someone? You could do a portrait of them. You got this. 31 is sleepy. We are all going to be tired by the end of Peachtober. You can be doing a character. You can be doing a self-portrait. Anything you like. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the SD card. Goodbye, everyone. Guys, I got 40 seconds till my SD card fills up. This went a lot longer than I thought, and I'm really sorry about that. I'm a rambler. I just just want to say thank you so much for watching this far ahead, especially for those who aren't even participating in Peachtober. My next few videos are going to be Peachtober focused, so if you're not interested, check out for a month and a half, and I'll see you again for more studio vlogs. But for now, if you're here for Peachtober vibes, I'm so excited. It's almost time. Goodbye, my sweet little babies. Mwah.